Well, hi there, goddammit. I used to get in big trouble for saying that. When I was a kid, going to Catholic school, I would get in big trouble for saying anything bad like hell or damn it, even God damn it. Even if I just said damn it, oh boy, would I get in trouble. The nuns did not like that shit. I am Caleb Jones. This is the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast. Today I'm going to talk about perhaps your greatest enemy in terms of building an Alpha Male 2.0 life, and that is societal programming. Societal programming is the stuff that your head is full of from various sources. And this is stuff that sounds right, that makes sense to you, but is in fact completely and totally wrong. And I will go through many examples of this. And the example I just gave, I was raised in a Catholic school, and I was taught a lot of interesting things that were all wrong when I went to Catholic school. And then as I talk about in the Unchained Man, alphamalebook.com, it's only $7, over 400 pages. You should buy it and read it. It'll change your life. I went from, my parents did not have a lot of money, and so they had 5 children. The first 2 children they had, me and one of my younger sisters, the 2 oldest children they had, they were able to scrape and send to private school. And this is back in the 70s and early 80s when private schools were much less expensive than they are today. They couldn't afford to do that with the other 3 children. And even us, as soon as we left that school at 8th grade, they had to transfer us to the public high school because they couldn't afford to send me and my sister to a private high school that was too expensive for them. So I got to experience both sides of this. When I went from the right-wing, extremely religious, conservative, traditional Catholic school upbringing, I went into the public school system where it was the exact opposite, where many of the social studies and social sciences teachers were extreme leftists, in some cases Marxists, and they started teaching me pretty much exactly the opposite of what I had been told in the Catholic right-wing school. I went from one right-wing extreme to the other left-wing extreme, and I was interestingly able to see both aspects of societal programming from both sides. So school is one of the biggest places you will pick up societal programming. The first 5, 6, 7 years of school, they will fill your head with nothing but horseshit. Actually, nothing but horseshit. It's about a 90-10 ratio. For every 10 items they teach you, 1 will be valid. 2 plus 2 does equal 4. Yes, that's good. But the other 9 things they will teach you is horseshit. Latin is very important, and we need to save the rainforests. And I remember when my kids went to school, they would come home from, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and I would ask them, so what new words did you learn how to spell today? Because reading is a critical skill. And they said, none. We talked about how we need to save the rainforests. Oh, fuck. Now, this is not a political thing. I am not a right-wing conservative. I am not a left-wing liberal or progressive. I am none of those things. My point is, I didn't want my kids learning about the fucking rainforest when they were in 2nd grade. I wanted them learning mathematics, reading, writing, the core skills they needed. And it was upsetting to me that both when I went to school and when my kids went to school, in both cases, most of the time was spent on stupid horseshit rather than the critical skills that I needed and they need to become functional adults in the modern high-tech society. But anyway, school is the first one. Another one is businesses. When you go get a job, your company, your corporation, your corporate culture will fill you full of all kinds of bullshit. Governments, some governments more than others, but government propaganda pervades just about every government I can think of, including the ones you think are free, like the United States. If you think the United States does not engage in government propaganda, you are a moron. My favorite example is when they pulled down the statue of Saddam Hussein in Iraq. They showed this statue of people pulling it down and this giant crowd surrounding the statue. Well, actually, the Bush administration actually cropped out the photo and they made it look like there was a giant crowd. When you actually uncropped the photo, it was just a small handful of people looking at this. And the Bush administration was talking about how there was this massive crowd of people cheering the collapse of Saddam Hussein. Because yes, we have to give the Iraqis their freedom. So that's why we spent trillions of dollars and got thousands, hundreds of thousands of people killed for no reason. So that's another way. Religious societal programming, obviously, is a huge one. Advertising. All the advertising you see on commercials on TV, on the internet, on YouTube, in movies, all that stuff. Authors, when you read a book, including fiction authors, people think that societal programming is just nonfiction sources. Oh, no. You read a fiction author, you're getting societal programming from an author, particularly if that author is a big author like Stephen King, something like that. Politicians, television, movies. In The Unchained Man, I talk about specific examples of how movies just fill you full of horseshit. I talk about one of the Spider-Man movies. It's all over. It's pervasive. It's nonstop. Matter of fact, when I go to movies, and I love movies, I go to a lot less movies these days because the Western world is in a state of collapse and we've lost it culturally. We've lost our ability basically to create good movies. But when I go sit down to a movie or watch a TV show, I always do this. It's a habit I have. I suggest you do the same thing. I mentally prep myself. I say to myself, this movie / Netflix show / whatever is going to try to put in their political agenda or their views on life into my head. I have to be aware of these things and block them out. And that's the two aspects of this. Be aware of it and filter it out as best you can. Music is another one. When you listen to songs, and this is a big problem I have because I have a lot of music I really like, but the lyrics are awful. So a lot of top 40 music, and that's an easiest example, the top 40 stuff, most of that stuff you listen to sung by a man is almost always a topic about one-itis, about how I will jump on a grenade for my girlfriend and how I'm so sad my girlfriend won't call me back. And I'm so missing the girlfriend who broke up with me. It's all beta male one-itis-y horse shit, even if the song is really good. And the problem is when you listen to music, it goes right into your subconscious. So when you feel really good listening to a really cool song and you're not paying attention to the lyrics, those lyrics go right into your subconscious and turn you into a pussy beta male in most cases. The other extreme for that, the opposite extreme, I like heavy metal music. I like hard rock. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The problem is a lot of hard rock is full of very angry, negative messaging about how I'm angry. I want to kill my ex-girlfriend. All that kind of crap, right? There's a lot of political shit in there sometimes. It's a very alpha male 1.0 anger, which I don't want in my subconscious. So you got to be aware of this. Music is another source. The news, the internet, the news, obviously. I mean, I think most people today understand how biased the news is. The problem with that is that today people will say the mainstream media is fake news. It's bullshit. I'm not going to listen to them anymore. And then they go on these websites that give them another line of bullshit, just one that they happen to like. So the right winger will say, fuck CNN. And he'll go to fucking, Breitbart or something like that. He'll go to a website that just validates all their shit. The left winger will say, Fox News is evil. Fox News is wrong. And then they'll go to fucking Young Turks or Huffington Post, these extreme left-wing biased news sources, and rely on them. So even though people logically say, yeah, the news is bullshit, they tend to exchange one pile of bullshit for another pile of bullshit, which is really unfortunate. But that's another strong source of societal programming. Your friends and your family, your extended family, that is a huge source of societal programming. A lot of guys from Asia, a lot of guys from India have been basically poisoned for life because of the bullshit their parents raised them with when they were little about women and sex and dating. And, you have to obey the family. And I don't care if you're 47 years old, you're still a little boy. You have to do whatever I say. And, it makes me sick. Your culture. Matter of fact, I've said before that the strongest societal programming there is cultural societal programming. I've talked about this before. How you will have guys, if you say something negative, if I say something negative about the United States, my own country, people nod their head in agreement. If I say something negative about China, people nod their head in agreement. If I say something negative about one of the Scandinavian countries, these guys in Scandinavia, the same guys who were nodding in agreement when I was saying factual negative things about the United States or China, will suddenly scream their fucking heads off. How dare you attack my country? Even again, if I'm not stating an opinion, I'm being factual. I'm giving you a factual fact about a Scandinavian country or a European country or a South American country or Eastern European country. Guys get furious. How dare you attack my culture? Because cultural societal programming is the strongest societal programming there is. You will notice I don't scream at people when they say something factually negative about my country, the United States, because I'm objective. I'm rational. That is the cure for societal programming, is objectivity, rationality. You want to look at the world the way the world really is, not the way you were told it was supposed to be. That's societal programming. And I've talked about this before. I talked about this in the book, in The Unchained Man, about how you can identify societal programming when people get very angry and defensive without any rational points. So here's my favorite example. I have many of them. Many, many years ago, I was seeing a woman as kind of an FB. She was religious. She was very Christian, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. That's fine. I come from the Catholic world. I am very well versed in this world. My mom was a nun before she married my dad. I know all about this. I have read not all the Bible, but a lot of the Bible. Most of the Bible, in fact. So I'm very well versed in that world. So we were talking, and she was talking about how premarital sex was evil. Now, where do you think she fucking learned that horse shit? She learned that from her religion. Religious societal programming. Completely horseshit. Completely false. Premarital sex is bad, she said. And I kind of looked at her and went, we just had premarital sex, you and me. She's like, yeah, I know, but we really shouldn't do it. I said, why not? She goes, well, we shouldn't do it. Now, this is important. She didn't say, oh, the reasons we shouldn't do it are A, B, C, D, E. She had no reason. She just said, well, we just shouldn't do it. Why not? We just shouldn't do it. In other words, she didn't answer the question. I said, but so what? I mean, what's the big deal? She goes, well, what if everybody did that? I said, everyone does do that. Everyone has premarital sex. Everybody. Everybody in the world has premarital sex, with a few exceptions, right? She goes, well, yeah, but they shouldn't. I said, why not? She goes, well, it's about respect. I said, do you think I disrespected you just now by having sex with you? And she said, no. I said, what are you talking about? You're not making sense. So again, she's defending this point without making any rational arguments, any rational points. She's just saying we shouldn't do that because we shouldn't do that, which is a non sequitur, right? So I kept pushing her. I said, no, tell me why. Now, I shouldn't have done this. Please do not do this. This was years ago before I understood basic relationship technique structures and how to communicate with females in a relationship. Do not do this in your relationship. I did this wrong. Do not use guy logic on a woman you're in a relationship with. That'll just piss her off. Don't do this. But I did this incorrectly, and I pushed her to give me a reason, because I'm a man. I want logic. I want man logic. Give me a logical man reason why you shouldn't have premarital sex. What is the problem? And she started getting pissed. She started getting worked up. She started getting upset. And I finally said, the reason you think this is because you were brainwashed by your religion. Nothing personal against Christianity, but you were told this by the people going to church. By the way, I don't even think this is in the Bible. This is just something your religion concocted and threw at you, and now you believe it. And she goes, how dare you say I was brainwashed by my... And she started screaming and yelling. So what was she doing? She was getting upset and angry and defensive about something she believed strongly without any rational facts or critical thinking to back up what she was believing. That is classic societal programming. That is the classic indicator of societal programming. When someone gets very upset, you see this on the internet left and right, you see this in real life too, very upset and very defensive about something they strongly believe, but they can't tell you logically why they believe it. You know why they can't logically? You know why they can't do that? Because they were told to believe that by societal programming, and they're just following that brainwashing without any critical thinking. You will notice, at least I hope you have noticed, depending on how long you've been consuming my content, reading my stuff, what have you, that every strong opinion I have, and I have very, very many of them, I can back up with multiple facts. There is not one thing you can challenge me on in one of my strongly held opinions or my strongly held beliefs where I say, well, just because you should. No, I back everything up by fact after fact after fact, data, science, statistics, history, biology, psychology, all that stuff. I have everything backed up, everything I strongly believe. There are things I partially believe and I kind of believe where you could challenge me and say, I don't know, this is kind of what I believe. I'm really not sure about this. That's true. But everything I strongly believe, you will never find me defending a strong belief I have that I cannot back up by facts that I can point to and verify. Because I don't want societal programming in my little brain. I don't want it in there. I just want to know the world as it is so I can become successful and happy in the world as it is, not pursue a fantasy that will never happen. If I recycle my egg cartons, then I will save the planet Earth from ecological disaster. Or if I get traditionally monogamously married, Jesus will love me more. So again, the left and the right, and even libertarians, it doesn't matter what you are, all suffer from societal programming. Libertarians like, I'm going to get Bitcoin. It's going to go to $1 million next year, and I'm going to get rich because I bought Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's awesome, because Bitcoin's the future. Might be wrong. Probably not going to happen. It might happen, but unlikely. That's more societal programming from the libertarian side. So even people who I like can be brainwashed by societal programming. Now, one quick aside, in the book, I talk about several examples. Matter of fact, this actually isn't an aside. This is directly what we're talking about. This is societal programming. I rattle off several examples on traditional things most people believe. and how they're wrong, and the reason they believe them is societal programming. And in the book, I say I can't go through all these things because I don't have time. They're outside the scope of this book. But I actually want to address them in this podcast because I've gotten questions about them. So this is the Unchained Man, page 50 in chapter 3. It's page 50 depending on the version you've got. But anyway, I write, SP includes all kinds of things in politics. And I have 2 quotes. Republicans make government smaller. And I have another quote, Democrats don't go to war. So let me back that up with facts. The last Republican president in the United States who actually made government smaller than when he started in his office was President Eisenhower in the 1950s. So we have not had a Republican president who made government smaller for 70 plus years. By the way, even Eisenhower didn't actually completely make it smaller. He made it smaller during his reign, but by the time he left at the end of his presidential run, government was bigger. So even in that case, he didn't fucking pull it off. Republicans love big government and have for most of your lifetimes. I have numerous articles at my blogs about this. I'm not going to go through that in detail. Just in recent history, in the last 25, 30 years, you can look on a chart of government spending when Republicans are in charge versus when Democrats are in charge. And it's always higher when Republicans are in charge. It's still very high when Democrats are in charge, of course. It's not like Democrats are for small government either. They're both for big government. That's why America is going bankrupt. But you get my point. Next one is Democrats don't go to war. Well, let's think about this for a minute. Who was the president in every war that has been fought in the United States since World War II? And there's a whole pile of them. There's such I think it's like 27 different little wars. Bill Clinton bombed innocent civilians in Kosovo. Barack Obama took George W. Bush's 2 stupid, useless wars and turned them into 7 stupid, useless wars. Last time I checked, he was a Democrat. I could go on and on. Other than Jimmy Carter, most Democrat presidents have gone to war and have used the military because they love it. But the myth is that the Democrats are the anti-war people and the Republicans are the warmongers. No, they're all warmongers. So that's the other one. So then I can continue. In the book, I say, in history, so this is an American thing now, the quote I use is, the North invaded the South in order to free the slaves. That's what people think. And that is what still is taught to this day to children in American schools, that the North invaded the South to free the slaves because Lincoln was this angelic man who wanted to free the slaves. No, Lincoln was a racist. Lincoln, we know this is all factual now. You can look all this up. Feel free to Google this stuff. Lincoln was convinced that black people were inferior to white people. Lincoln thought slavery was just fine. That is not why the North invaded the South. The North invaded the South to keep Europe out of the war. Europe was about to come into the war on the side of the South, and they wanted to prevent that. So the North invaded the South. The reason the North invaded the South had nothing to do with slavery. Slavery was not an issue in the Civil War until 2 years into the war when Lincoln did his little turnaround. Now, one counter argument to that is that the South, in terms of the South defending themselves against the North, they were about slavery. They wanted to keep their slaves. That is true. The quote I have in the book is, the North invaded the South in order to free the slaves. That is false. That is not why the Civil War began. It became an issue 2 years into the war, not at the beginning of the war. Next quote I have, FDR was completely, this is American again. I apologize for the American examples, but I'm an American, so there you go. That's my societal programming that I don't have anymore. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was completely shocked when the Japanese attacked since he had no idea that would ever happen. We're talking about Pearl Harbor. And the societal programming, the false societal programming is that FDR was completely shocked like everyone else when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in 1942. That is factually incorrect. That was actually part of FDR's plan. Now, FDR did not want them to bomb Pearl Harbor specifically, but we know very clearly, this is documented in the handwriting of people in meetings with FDR in his own cabinet. From their original handwriting, FDR repeatedly said to his cabinet, we've got to get into this war, guys. So here's the deal. World War II started in Europe, as you probably know. America was very isolationist back then. They did not want to get involved. FDR wanted to go to war with the rest of the world. He wanted the war to occur. He wanted America to get involved in the war. And so he repeatedly said, we can't start the war. We need someone to attack us first. And that was Japan, through Japan's oil embargoes and things like that. He repeatedly said over and over again, We've got to get Japan to attack us first. We've got to get them to attack us so we can go to war and take out Japan and take out Hitler and get involved in this fucking thing. When Americans did not want that. If you look at polls at the time, Americans overwhelmingly wanted to stay out of World War II until Pearl Harbor was bombed. And FDR said, perfect, that is exactly what I wanted. Now we can declare war. Actually, Japan declared war on us and Hitler declared war on us too. But that is what FDR wanted. So that is a myth that FDR was shocked. He was not shocked at all. That was part of his plan. Not Pearl Harbor specifically, but for Japan to attack America first. Okay, next one I have is the next quote. In relationships, women are attracted to men who buy them things. So what are most normal guys told in terms of normal traditional dating advice? Be really nice to women, right? Buy her flowers, buy her chocolates, wine her and dine her, take her out to a fancy restaurant, go get her a steak. Women to this very day. I have a video up on YouTube from my friend Carly, who talks about, I want a man, if he wants to turn me on, he needs to take me to a fancy restaurant and buy me a steak and spend a lot of money on me. And no, that is the opposite of what will occur. Her pussy will dry up as fast as you can say, Robin Williams, because that's not how this works. When you buy things for a woman, when you slather a woman with gifts before you've had sex with her multiple times, that presses hard on the make him wait button. That puts you in the possible provider category, and now you are no longer sexually attractive. If you want a woman sexually attracted to you, one of the things you should not do is to slather her with gifts and or compliments. That is the opposite of what you should do. You can't be a total asshole either. There's a sweet spot. I talk about that in my dating materials. All right, next quote I have is, once you find that special person, you won't ever want to have sex with anyone else. I have had numerous women, usually younger women who aren't very experienced, tell me exactly this. Oh no, marriage works well because, you know, if you marry that real special person, if you find your soulmate, then you won't want to cheat. You'll never want to have sex with someone else because you will have found your soulmate. I shouldn't have to describe to you why that's untrue. 76+% divorce rates among people who actually get married, 78% plus cheating rates, 40% increase in the number of women who are cheating on men just since the year 2000. I could give you statistic after statistic after statistic. No. At some point in the marriage or the relationship, if the marriage or relationship lasts long enough, you and or your wife/girlfriend will eventually want to get sexual with someone else other than your spouse/partner. It will happen. It's almost a guarantee with very rare exception. That doesn't mean they will have sex with someone else. I'm not saying your wife, girlfriend is guaranteed to cheat on you. I'm saying the odds are overwhelming that she will want to if the relationship lasts long enough, and it probably won't, because what women usually do is they dump men or divorce men before they hook up with another guy. That's why men do cheat more often than women, because men don't break up with women and women do break up with men. In other words, both men and women want to have sex with someone else. The difference is the woman will terminate the relationship before she does it more often than the man will. The man will not want to terminate the relationship. He'll keep the relationship going or want to and have sex with other women on the side as cheating. All right. Next one, and next quote I have here is in economics. Here's the big one. This is one of the biggest one of all of modern history. The crash of 2008 was caused by too much capitalism. At the Caleb Jones blog, I have multiple articles about this. I'm not going to go through that here. There was nothing capitalist whatsoever about the crash of 2008, about the mortgage crisis and the mortgage-backed securities. There was virtually nothing capitalistic about that. It was highly corporatist. It was a direct result of regulations and pressure government put on banks, plus a bunch of other factors I don't have time to go into here. If America was a truly capitalist, free market, tiny government economy, the crash of 2008 would have never, ever occurred. Period. And a story that is fact. Next one. Real estate always goes up in value. It doesn't always go up in value. I know multiple people who have been murdered by real estate. Absolutely murder. Are you kidding? No. Now, if you say real estate always goes up in value over a period of 50 plus years, maybe that's true in certain regions, but that's not the quote here. Real estate always goes up. Buy a house. You won't lose money buying a house because real estate always goes up. False. In fitness, weight loss is mostly about exercise. I just did a video about that on YouTube. No. Exercise in terms of fat loss, losing body fat. Now, I'm not talking about health or well-being or fitness. That's different. I'm talking about losing body fat. Exercise is about 5 to 10% of the equation at best for most normal human beings. Wrong. Weight loss is mostly about the calories you consume, not about your physical activity. Next one. Next societal programming trope that I have on here, eating fat makes you fat. There was a big craze during the late 80s and 90s on how fat was bad, fat. So you could buy all this low-fat shit, right? Or fat-free. I used to buy, when I was a young man, used to buy these fat-free cookies, fat-free soft chocolate-covered cookies. They were so good. And they were terrible for me because they were 100% sugar and carbs. But they didn't have fat. And so everybody thought, okay, no problem. So when America switched to a lower-fat diet, Americans got fatter. You can look up those statistics in the 90s because they started eating more sugar and more shitty carbs. Wrong. As a matter of fact, if you eat more fat, it means you're eating less carbohydrates, and they know scientifically that it's easier to lose body fat if you reduce the amount of carbs and eat more fats and more proteins. So incorrect. Next one, last two, in business. So societal programming says entrepreneurs who own successful businesses have more time and more freedom. That is true of Alpha 2.0 entrepreneurs. Hopefully you're one of them. I'm one of them. Yes, your Alpha 2.0 business will give you much more freedom. But the typical business owner, I've talked about this a lot in my online courses, simply exchanges one job for another. He exchanges himself as a boss. He exchanges one job from a boss to another job where he is the boss, but it's still a job. It's still just as unfree as having a job. That's what the vast majority of business owners have. I can tell you as a professional business consultant with over 20 years of experience working with hundreds of business owners, these people are not free, with rare exception. Every once in a while you run into someone who's more Alpha 2.0, but with rare exception, these people are not free. You could argue that in some cases, not many, but some, they have maybe 10% more freedom than a guy with a job, maybe, 10, 15% more. But usually it's 0% more. So wrong. The typical business will not set you free. That's why you should start your own Alpha 2.0 business, which will set you free. The last statement for business, societal programming, false societal programming is the most important thing is to cut costs. Cut costs. That is important to a degree, but a more important thing is to scale the business and market more. You can make a lot more money marketing your business than cutting costs. A hell of a lot more money. I've used many examples of many huge corporations that waste billions and billions of dollars a year in complete waste and pork, especially the big Fortune 500 companies. But these companies stay in business and stay profitable. Why? Because they're good at marketing. They market. So no, that is not the most important thing. If you put a gun to my head and force me to choose between marketing your business or cutting costs, I will pick marketing your business every fucking time. Not even close. Of course, you still want to cut costs. That's called financial defense. But I'd rather you spend more time on financial offense, which is marketing, innovation, all that good stuff. I could go on and on and on. Just be aware your greatest enemy from zero to an alpha male 2.0 lifestyle, from zero to long-term consistent masculine happiness, is to go through that painful process of identifying the societal programming you have in your head that you feel is right, that you feel is the way it should be emotionally, but that's wrong. And get to the point where you say, you know what? I know this is what I was told my whole life. I know this is what I want to believe, but this isn't accurate. This is not true. Something else is true. When you get to that point, you're going to get to alpha male 2.0 status, or if you already are, get to higher levels of happiness much faster than you ever thought possible, because that was the barrier you're encountering. The bullshit your culture, religion, parents, companies, politics, friends have filled you with your whole life. You've got to get free of that stuff. Have fun. I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye.